Hey, everybody! It's just me, no Flip. Unfortunately, he called. Oh wow, he called about an hour and a half ago and had to back out. Thankfully, though, I have somebody that I can depend on and trust 100% of the time, and I'm going to bring on a friend that you all know and love. It's Mr. Jeremy Long, just in the capital N nick of time. Hello.
I am not a cook. Hey, how's it going?
What's going on?
Phew, I don't know if your comment is true about always being able to count on me 100% of the time, but I appreciate the sentiment nonetheless.
I mean, so far, yes.
Here I am. Here I am on this particular occasion.
Very, very, very special. I want to point out, Sam, you're here live. What's going on? I don't think that's happened before. Hello, my friend. That's amazing. We have a whole bunch of wonderful people here. Hello, even John Namarsico. Amazing. Hello, Sardis. Hope everybody is well. We really did not have a super important topic to discuss tonight. So I'm just here to vamp with one of my closest friends. So what's going on with you?
I just got done saying, "Hey, what up, Sardis?" And then in the comments he said, "No, not Jeremy again." So I take it back. I'm yanking that back real quick. I heard Artie Lang called Flip, and they finally found out that it's his long lost dad, so they're reconnecting, and that's why he had to bail.
Yeah, supposedly Flip was asked to play his doppelganger in the movie.
In the porno. Doppelganger. It's going good over here. Just slamming away at life and all kinds of stuff, man. It's been a busy what? We're not even a month into the new year yet, but it's been busy. How's things on your end? Oh, go ahead.
You've only been back in California for not even 2 full weeks, right?
2 full weeks.
As of today, actually, I think.
As of what's today? Tuesday? Yeah, you're right. As of today. 2 full weeks as of today.
That's good timing. Have you seen anything crazy since you've been back? I already know the answer. I shouldn't lead in like that. I just want to hear, and share with everybody. Share the story with everybody.
Which story?
I mean, which one? You've just been to so many events since you've come back.
I know. I did nothing for 2 and look who wants to say hi.
What's up, Cat Stevens? Hello.
Oh, Sardis ordered the sequel to the story of film because of me. I'll take it.
That Music Box Films DVD.
I still yank back my hello. We haven't earned it back yet. Let's see. Well, yeah, there has a lot. Tomorrow, I've heard too. I've seen this old news. Tomorrow I'm going to. This wouldn't 100% be my cup of tea normally, but I have a friend a very dear friend of mine who is obsessed with the show, and I got invited to the Teen Wolf the movie premiere. So we're going.
That does not sound very Jeremy.
We're going to that, and believe it or not, somehow I don't know how they managed to do it. It's over 2 hours long.
That's a lot of teens and probably a little less wolves.
A little less wolves and a lot more pussycats. And then the day after that, Thursday, I got invited to the premiere of the new show, The Wolf Pack, which
lot of wolves.
Wait, it's a wolf kind of week, you know what I mean? And I normally wouldn't be super pumped about that either, but it's Sarah Michelle Gellar's new show. And Buffy the Vampire Slayer is my favorite show of all time, in case anybody doesn't know. So, and I've never met her, so I'm looking forward to the event for solely that reason. It will probably be a mediocre show, TBH. But, and then I was almost going to go see EO tonight. I'm very excited to see that movie.
Nice.
I literally have not made my best of list of 2022 finalized yet because I'm waiting to see that. But it fell through. Lucky for you, it fell through. And here I am instead, not watching EO. And then last weekend, not the one that just happened, but the one before that, I had a fun 3 events back-to-back day on Saturday. It was a whirlwind because it was like an all day. The first event started at noon, and that was what they called Glass Onion Day. So they had a screening of the movie, which, as we all know, is a little bit on the longer side. I think 2.5 hours. And then 3 back-to-back. Usually they only do like a Q&A at these things, if any. And this one had 3 back-to-back what they call panels. And like one was called Crafting the Mystery. And it was like a Q&A with the editor, the cinematographer, the production designer, like those types of people on kind of like the behind the scenes stuff, crafting the mystery. Patton Oswalt was the guest moderator for that one. And let me tell you, comedians make great Q&A moderators.
I would agree.
As opposed to, I've seen some really stuffy moderators in my day.
Like a theater host or something like that, just stepping in. Oh, no thanks.
Sometimes even like somebody like a journalist or something,
right?
These really stereotypical questions and stuff. Patton, he said I think it was the cinematographer who was rambling on one answer for like way too long, and then he did that very classic Q&A answer thing where he's like, anyways, I hope that answered your question. That very cliche. And then Pat's like, no, it didn't, Bob. Actually, here, I'm going to repeat it again. Listen very carefully this time. And that got a huge laugh. And then, and then he didn't know that there was 3 panels, and that was the very first one. So like everybody started like getting up and leaving afterwards, and you saw someone come over and whisper to him, and he's like, "Oh, there'll be another panel, so stay seated. I guess they're bringing the caterer and the PA out here, so we'll talk to them next."
The caterer.
So he was a hoot. But anyways, then the next one literally the second one was a solo Q&A with just this moderator and actually, no, and the editor. So the editor wasn't in the first panel. I don't know what, but the second one was just the editor and a moderator. And then lastly, the third one was just Ryan Johnson, and Drew Goddard was the special guest moderator for that one. And everybody's talking about the Out of the Blue Severin release, which is so ironic because the folks who did the restoration of Out of the Blue were at this event. And when I was talking to Ryan after the Q&A was over, and I was telling Ryan, like, oh my God, they just showed Brick at the New Beverly literally yesterday, because this was a Saturday and it was a Friday matinee. And I was like, but I couldn't go because it was a Friday matinee and I was working. And Ryan's like, I know. I was like, I was out of town and I wanted to go too. He's like, it's been forever since I've seen it on film. And so we had like a little bit of bonding moment. And then all of a sudden this old man comes over, and it's the Out of the Blue restoration guy, who I met before because I went to the premiere of the Out of the Blue restoration at the Arrow that Natasha Lyonne and Chloe Sevigny introduced. And so I didn't know, I thought he looked familiar, and then he's like, oh, have you seen Out of the Blue yet, Ryan? And then Ryan's like, no, not yet. And he's like, oh, I'll send you a copy in the mail. And then I was like, that's a beautiful restoration, by the way, and a phenomenal release, like all around. And he was like, oh, thank you. So that's kind of ironic that people were talking about that in the comments. Anyways, so then after the 3 panels, it was there was like a reception with like open bar, themed drinks from the movie, because they all had their signature cocktails that Edward Norton made for them.
The pictures looked amazing.
It was delicious. And then various hors d'oeuvres being passed around, and a bunch of props. They had like some costumes. They had like the Glass Onion sign. They had the Mona Lisa, the blue, whatever his car was. I forget what car it was, with the kombucha inside, like by the pool. Anyways, so the mini one, not the real car, but and then. So that was fun. And then I went straight from that because it was 3 back-to-back panels and a longer movie, it went to like 5.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, snooze fest. I know.
Stephen Billings is here tonight. And The out of the blue people, we posted that they got nominated on Instagram, and they lit up. Like, they were sharing all of the
Oh,
posts.
good.
They are so proud of that restoration, and for
They're,
good reason. It looks incredible.
is it a husband and wife duo? Do
I
you know?
feel like it is. I'm not entirely sure, but I
There's
feel
a
like it
it is
is.
a man and a woman, and that's who
Yep.
I was talking to at the Glass Onion Day too, and they lit up when I told them too that I loved it so much.
Good.
And I was like, Ryan, you gotta watch it. He's like, I'll mail it to you. Anyway, so I went straight from that to it was not over until like 5, and then at 6 was this screening of Park Chan-wook's Decision to Leave, which is one of my favorite films of last year. And I had previously seen it at Beyond Fest last year too, in October-ish. And Park Chan-wook did a Q&A then, but they rush him out quick at the Arrow usually, any kind of guest for the most part. But this was, since it was an industry screening, and it was a very intimate event because it was at the London Hotel, which I like going to PGA events there because they have this very small theater that's probably only like 50 seats.
Yeah.
So he did a Q&A. His Q&As always last forever because he gives these long, in-depth answers, and then also the translator has to then translate it and read it back. But that was fun, and then there was a reception after that too, where I got to chat with him, and which is great because he's like the master. I told him he's like one of my top 10 favorite filmmakers of all time, and the translator translated to him, and then he said something, and then the translator said to me, he says, "What's your other 4?" And I was like, "Oh." I got put on the spot. And I was just like, Tarantino, Paul Thomas Anderson. I give like the most cliche answers.
Right.
Oh, and I was also wearing a New Beverly shirt, and Park Chan was like, "Oh, New Beverly."
Nice.
And I had my friend Monique with me there, and they, had past hors d'oeuvres as well as an open bar, which is the usual. So got a little toasted, and then went to the midnight screening at the New Beverly, speaking of which, of the Vigil, which I remember seeing a long time ago when it first came out, and I didn't love it. I liked it, but I didn't love it.
Yeah, it's good, not great.
Apparently it has like a lot of love in the horror community because Mike Flanagan is obsessed with it. And so he was there to do a little introduction with the writer-director Keith Thomas, who I guess it's his first film that he did, and now he did a segment for Cabinet of Curiosities and a couple other things ever since then. So it really launched him off, which is great. And I think it's a great directorial debut, even if I didn't love it. So they introduced it and then did a little Q&A afterwards, and both of them stuck around for like an hour and a half after the Q&A, just chatting with people. It was great. And Mike remembered me from when I talked to him pretty extensively at last year's Beyond Fest in 2021, when he was also a guest moderator for the Black Phone premiere at Beyond Fest and moderated the Q&A with Scott Derrickson and Robert Cargill. One of those names.
I'm just here to help you keep everything in line and manage your brain filing cabinet.
I had to remember. And then and anyway, so Mike remembered me. I was like, "Hey, you gave me some great advice." He's like, "Really? Something I said worked?" And we added some more, and I got a picture with him and the writer-director of Vigil and Keith Thomas, and it was fun. So I didn't get home till like 4 because that movie, I think it's only like an hour and 40 minutes, but it's a midnight showing, and then the Q&A plus the intro at the beginning, and then sticking around and chatting with everybody. And by the way, for everybody, because I know a lot of these folks, well, pretty much everybody in the chat is physical media enthusiasts, and many of them are in your Discord that I'm a part of. And if they're not, they should join immediately and support them. The producers, I did not know this, the producers of The Vigil are the producers of Barbarian, the same producing team, these two guys. And so they were there at the screening and very enthused. They're very enthusiastic people because after this Q&A, they're just like, "There's 3 more." They're like yelling out from their seats. "There's 3 more screenings throughout the month, 3 more midnights, and each one's going to have a special guest." I guess the one from this past Saturday, the special guest was Parker Finn.
Oh, wow.
and apparently the next 2 they're going to have some other special guest moderators as well. So they're trying to hype up. Anyways, so they love this movie, and they seem very enthusiastic about film. But since they were there, I was like, yo guys, when are we gonna get a physical release of Barbarian? And the guy's like, don't even get me started. And anyways, he says at this point, the best hope we have is like some boutique label releasing it, like Criterion and I said, what about Arrow? And he's like, oh yeah. And he's like, because I don't think we're gonna get a release from the actual studio. He's like, I've been fighting it for months now. And he's like, but I have a couple irons in the fire in terms of like outsider third-party releases. So that's
kind of odd, considering the director posted that he had just done a commentary for it.
That is odd.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's what they.
Sam wants to know what's the best event and Q&A you've been to.
I don't know. I'll have to think about that one.
As you think about that, go ahead.
Just because he's my favorite writer of all time, Charlie Kaufman, writer of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, my favorite movie of all time. I went to, this was closer to, of course, when I first moved here. I think it was back in could have even been late 2015, which is the year I moved here. Might have been early 2016. They did a screening of Anomalisa with a Q&A, and he was there. And by the way, granted, I think he's only come out with one movie since Anomalisa, which is I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Yeah.
But I have not seen him do any Q&As since that Anomalisa one. I think because he is quite a recluse.
Right.
So him and the other director and some of the other folks involved were at this Q&A. But just being able to talk to Charlie Kaufman, my favorite writer, makes that definitely the number one for me.
Nice. Last time that we did one of these, Flip was not here, and I spent some time looking forward to 2023 films coming out. Offhand, do you know 2 or 3 that you're like, oh my god, I cannot wait to see these?
Yeah, obviously, unbelievably stoked for what's it called? What's the Joaquin Phoenix Ari Aster vehicle coming out?
The funny thing is, it's got, it had like a working title, and now it, when the poster came out, Joaquin, Bo, whatever, Bo's Not Afraid or something like that. I had laughed the first poster because Joaquin Phoenix, his name was like a third of the poster.
Yeah. I mean, but when you team up him and Ari Aster, A24, who's that one guy in the Discord that hates A24?
Cam. He's right here. Yeah. Nerd of the 80s.
Get out of here. So violent, passionate hate for A24.
No, and the funny thing is he loves a lot of A24 films. I think the issue is the way that they market them sometimes, which I kind of agree with, that they are a little condescending with their marketing.
Yeah. That's fair. I can't 100% disagree with that. But I'm stoked about that one. Obviously stoked about Max XXXine to finish off that trilogy. Stoked about John Wick 4 talking about trilogies now becoming sagas. And there was what's that other one? It's coming out in April. It's the same month as Bo, I think.
You'll have to be more specific.
Here, I'll tell you. You say something. I talked enough.
Well, first of all, did you hear the supposed news about what is coming up after this next Ari Aster project?
No.
So I don't remember if they actually said the plan for what's coming out or anything like that, but I feel like they hinted at something, and I can't remember it. The next film is supposedly going to have Emma Stone, which is awesome, and then the other one, Christopher Abbott.
These are 2 separate movies, both
no
by
same film with both of them with Ari Aster.
And Ari Aster's next movie
after this Bo Is Not Afraid.
Well, I love both of them, actually. Did you ever see Christopher Abbott in this super underrated
I just watched it. Let's
what I'm
see.
talking about?
I do. Yeah, 6 days ago. Huh?
It's called Black Bear, I think.
Oh no, it's not the one.
Oh,
It's the one that you wanted me to watch last year, and I finally got to watch it on the count of 3.
oh yeah, that was really good too.
Dude, amazing.
Oh, yeah, I
So
told
well
you
done.
about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Gerard Carmichael is top notch.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't watch the Golden Globes, but
All right, we got a couple questions for you. What's the most strangely personal question you've heard at a Q&A?
oh, I'll tell you. This happened recently. Oh, I don't know if it's strangely personal, but this is just. By the way, the movie I was thinking of that's coming out in April is obviously Evil Dead, the new Evil Dead.
Evil Dead Rise.
I couldn't think of it for some reason. Just recently, I don't think it's personal to the person who. Oh, actually, I have a better answer. I can tell both if you want. But I went to. Oh my gosh, it's amazing how we're tying all these comments together because somebody just said apparently the animators from Anomalisa also did Moral Oral, and you're correct, Stan. That's Dino Stamatopoulos, who is
Starburns.
Yeah, Starburns, co-owner of Starburns Industries, which does Rick and Morty and Moral Oral, and also owned by Dan Harmon. Those two together. Obviously, they worked on Community together too. Dino's a friend of mine because him and Andy are really close, and you know that I'm friends with Andy. And
great month to talk about Rick and Morty, by the way. The whole Justin Roiland stuff going on.
Oh yeah, I did hear about that. Well, I'll tell you some stories. I am excited about Renfield. Actually, I forgot to mention that one too. Anything Nicolas Cage, obviously. Oh my god, I wish. I've never been to Sundance. I've always wanted to go. I've been to a bunch of local film festivals here in Los Angeles since I moved here, but I've never traveled for film festivals. So,
what about that time you went to Cannes?
I want to go to Cannes. I want to go to Tribeca. I want to go to Sundance. I never have. And
TIFF would be fun too.
TIFF would be so fun. I should have taken advantage of when they were doing like streamers.
Oh, the hybrid, yeah.
And I was like, man, that's a time I could have paid and jumped on it and avoided the travel costs.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have been as fun either. But I do want to go very soon. And I'm sure there's a ton of movies at Sundance that I'm really excited about. Sorry, it's just like back to the original question. So anyway, so the reason I said it's funny that somebody mentioned Moral Oral is because I'm friends with Dino. So Dino, Andy Dick, and I went to see. This was back in 2016 as well, I think. We went to also at the Arrow, and it was kind of at a time where I didn't even know what the Arrow was. I certainly wasn't as familiar and frequent of a guest as I am these days. To see what I believe is the final Jerry Lewis performance. Max Rose, I believe, is the name of the film. It's a drama, and Jerry Lewis plays a father of the main character in it. Kevin Pollak's in it as well. Ileana Douglas. And Jerry Lewis was there doing a Q&A, which was like, just Jerry Lewis.
You got to go, yeah.
And so we all went, and Dino and Andy were doing a podcast at the time called Skull Juice. Thanks. I know that's extremely sarcastic. They were doing a podcast at the time called Skull Juice, and I hope the story is at least interesting, even if I'm not the best storyteller. So they interviewed the director so you could probably still find that episode of the podcast even from that event. Anyways, at that event, somebody stood up. I'll never forget it. Some old guy, had to be in like his 70s, maybe even 80s. Is just like, Jerry, do you remember me? I met you in 1977 at the Carnegie Deli, and our mutual friend is Bob Johnson, and he said we had a great day together. We grabbed lunch and then went to the turnpike and threw rocks. I don't know what the fuck he said.
Right.
And he goes this whole fucking story, and you can feel the passion and then Jerry Lewis is like, sorry, I don't remember you. And then the guy looked like Jerry Lewis had just ripped the head off of his like pet rabbit or something like that.
It's
Like,
been 39 years.
He looked so distraught, and he's just like, "Oh, okay." Ones where there was like a line of people, instead of nowadays they just come up to you with the microphone, but this was when you
Right.
lined up at a microphone like in the aisle. So he was just like literally walked away like so like sad, like completely despair. And I felt bad for him, but at the same time, I'm like, you don't like. Did you really expect him to?
Right.
From that one day, 30-some years ago, or 40-some.
Oh boy.
So
that's pretty damn personal.
Pretty damn personal. So I hope that answers your question, person who asked. Sorry, I forget. And then the other one that I was going to say first was another big no-no. Like, that's a no-no. You don't just, I mean, it embarrasses both of you, really.
Right, especially to put somebody on the spot like that.
Yeah. And then the other big no-no is, Maddie asked. The other big no-no is more recently, this was just towards the end of last year, I went to the New Beverly with my buddy Jack for a screening. It was a Ryan Gosling double feature of Nice Guys and Drive. And what's his face? Shane Black popped in for a surprise Q&A after Nice Guys. And somebody in the back stood up and goes, "I'm an actor. Can you put me in something?"
Ugh.
I know. And literally the entire theater groaned. And Shane Black pretty quickly was like, "No, they've heard of you. They don't want you." But then he chooses to put that guy on the spot. And he's like, "All right, give me something. Give me a little Shakespeare."
Nice.
And the guy fucking froze. He said nothing. He's like, he's like, "Well, don't worry about it." Like, there's like a long pause, and Shane's like, "Don't worry about it." And Jack's like, "All he would have had to say was to be or not to be," and he could have got. But anyway, so it's like, you don't do that stuff at Q&As. Not really, you don't do that stuff. Period. Don't go up to even afterwards. And I mean, you can
I'll throw out there too that Q&As at conventions, I inevitably every single time when they do something, it is like some actress who is up there for a panel for something from 34 years ago, and some weirdo in the crowd stands up and asks a question about like nudity 38 years prior, and they're like, "So how did it how did it feel when you were nude in front of William Shatner or whatever?" It's like, come on, dude. It's so weird to bring attention to that in the moment and then put somebody publicly on the spot. And then, you look like you just fell out of the bed and hit everything on the way down to the floor. Like, come on.
That's not. Yeah, I don't think I personally experienced anything like that at the conventions I've been to, but I've seen it happen in videos I've watched of Q&A conventions and stuff like that. And it's just like,
the other big thing, I don't understand how many times I've been in a Q&A, or at least like in a panel where somebody's just talking on stage and people in the crowd have their phone ring on loud. It makes no sense to not turn it off during these things. I've even had people answer them and try to have like hushed one-sentence conversations, and everybody's staring at them and groaning. I do not understand it.
I don't put up with it anymore, whether it's something like that or just a movie theater. Can you shut the fuck up? Like, I'll give them like two options before I like really get aggressive or go get theater staff, God forbid. And because it's just like, this is a sacred place, and like, stop acting like it's your living room. And the only time I didn't put up a fight was when Avengers Infinity War came out, and it was the opening night, which is Thursday these days, not even Friday, where they have literally back-to-back, like at least here in Los Angeles, probably most places, they had literally screenings like every 15 minutes at the AMC near me. Like, you could just, if that one was full, 15 minutes later. And so I walked in, and really get the crowd into it. Well, this wasn't a good Q&A until everybody groaned. I walked into this theater, and this one guy was like literally like on his phone, like talking at normal volume. And I think the trailers had already started, Anyways, I sat down and he kept going, and I was like, shh. I did the very loud shh, and he goes, "I'll cut you." And I was like, he's calling now. I swore I would never tell the story.
The call's coming from within the house.
Oh, man. I was just like, okay. I literally stood up and walked out, and I walked into the 15-minute later showing. I was like, I don't need to fight that battle. I will wait for this next one to start 15 minutes later. Without a very aggressive chatty Cathy in the audience.
Oh man, I went to God, I think the film was About Time with Rachel McAdams, and I went to one of the downtown theaters here in Kansas City, and it was like middle of the day on a Thursday. Everybody's at school or work. It was super cheap. It was like $5. We walk inside and we sit back, like, you know, that the sweet spot of the theater, right in the middle, and you know, really good view, really good audio. And as we're sitting there watching the previews, somebody stumbles in, literally almost doesn't get to their seat, goes to the very front row, and we're confused about what's going on. But after about 10 minutes into the film, this very loud and aggressive homeless man stands up and is chugging cans of beer in the theater, and every so often threw his empty at the screen.
He's like, I hate British films. Fucking Rachel McAdams. You think he had enough money that he could afford a ticket, and he paid for a ticket just to be aggressive? Or
potentially it might have been like a really cold period or something, so it's kind of a cheap way to warm up for a couple hours.
Yeah, or maybe he slipped past the ticket taker for free.
Could be.
We had when I worked at the movie theater, because I worked at what's this?
Stan says, I met George Romero when I was 13, asked him how much money he made from Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, was that his first film? Is Night of the Living Dead his first film?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least the big his first wide film.
Yeah. The answer is $0.
Sardis says, I was at a small film festival, and the newspaper guy covering film in the paper was interviewing the director and asked him a question about who was his influences. The guy said Kuramaski, blank face. I stood up and started a conversation about his films, embarrassing the shit out of the guy.
Wow. Sardis doesn't hold back, as we've discovered in the chat today, when with me and my entrance. But I like your reviews, Sardis, on Letterboxd. You know, because I worked at a movie theater in Hershey, Pennsylvania, before I moved here, when I was in college, for like all 4 years of college, called Cocoplex, which doesn't exist anymore. I found out on a recent visit back to Pennsylvania. And then when I moved out here, my very first job in LA was at ArcLight Cinemas for like a hot 3 months or 2, or like 4 maybe, before I found my place in television. But this was at the Hershey Theater one time. It was, I mean, you can imagine, it's a very small town. So on a weekday night, you're getting like maybe 2 or 3 dozen customers. It was pretty slow. They usually had one person doing concessions and tickets at the concession stand, and one manager who was also like the projectionist, and that was like it. And anyways, back then we valued something called theater checks, which I've noticed that a lot of theaters don't give a shit about these days. They don't pop in and check on the sound and video quality and make sure people aren't making noise and shit. But back then we cared, and I was doing a theater check, and I popped into this one theater. I don't remember what movie it was, but I looked around and there was nobody in there. And back in these days, on top of doing theater checks, it was well, maybe it was just because it was such a small independent movie theater, but we didn't run the theater if we didn't sell tickets. It was one of those types of theaters back in those days. And so I'm like, the movie's on, we had to have sold tickets, but I don't see anybody, which of course, usually the light bulb is they snuck into another movie that they may be allowed to see or whatever. So right as I was like looking around, and right as I was about to exit to like go on a fucking investigation, I love that shit, all of a sudden, this head pops up, and then a female head pops up, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And
Something else going on.
I recognized them because I was also selling
Oh.
tickets at the time, and so I was like, "Oh, I remember when they came in and got their tickets." And they looked right at me, and I was like, "Have them buy your ticket next time if you're gonna do that, honey." And then walked out.
Nice.
They paid separately.
Nice.
Anyways, so there's another little movie theater.
I never had the opportunity to work at a theater, and I kind of regret that.
Yeah, I mean,
or a video store. I've never done either.
I did both. Well, I didn't actually work. I was almost like a resident employee at this one local video store, but I didn't actually work there. So I guess I can't say that. But the movie theater, obviously you get absolute shit money. I mean, back when I was in college, well, I was working 3 jobs in college. I was working at a restaurant as a server, at the movie theater, and at a local comic book shop, in order to, help pay for college. But so it pays shit. And then, when I was out here, when I worked out at the one out here for like 3 months or whatever, I was also Ubering at the time because, again, it pays shit. So you can't make a living off of it, but
right.
For the time to do it is in like high school or whatever. But I don't regret it. It was fun. I got to learn, projection and all the stuff. Hang on a second. I need to. Someone's at my door. I'll be right back.
You're good. Stan ran one of the first video stores in LA. That's incredible. DC says, I should really learn how to say the whole name here. DC Eibner. Or Seibner. I'm one of the two. I shushed a pack of teens during a screening of Independence Day Resurgence. One of them tried to start a fight. Went to the lobby where they asked for our tickets. I had a ticket. They did not. And then, of course, moral of the story, I had to finish that god-awful movie. Yeah, I really do wish I could have worked at a video store at some point. The theater in my hometown was kind of shit. I did not like it very much. And in fact, once I got old enough to drive, and once I didn't live at home with crappy parents anymore, anytime I went to a theater, I willingly drove 35 miles to the nearest like mid-sized town that had a decent movie theater, just so I didn't have to go to our shitty movie theater at our hometown. Brian is here, just got home after a grueling hour-and-a-half drive from work. God dang. Worked at a video store back in the VHS days. Very nice. I'll be sure to ask Jeremy in just a second when he gets back here. Sardis, I started going to the theater when I was in my first trimester. My mom took the tickets while pregnant, so I started enjoying film before I was born. Nice. Very nice. Yes, thank you. I didn't realize Jake was here, but yes, the sticky floors in Barstow are a core memory, and not for good reasons. Not only are the floors super sticky, the chairs, you know how when you're in a movie theater, you can tell they've not been updated in a generation or so. This had like the dust of a billion farts in these chairs, and those things were god awful. The screens were terrible. They did not have good they didn't have good bulbs, so no matter what, everything was always super dim. It was awful. I could not stand that place. King Dingling went to Mascazoro. Guy brought his kid, let him run up and down the aisle for 20 minutes, leaned forward and whispered, "You might want to do something about him." Ouch. So close. Phonetic breakdown. Sibner. Okay, I can say D. Sibner. Thank you. Worked at a theater from 95 to 98. Very nice. Silent Mandibles here. What's going on? Partly remember going to the drive-in to see Pale Rider when I was like 4. Speaking of our hometown that Jake just brought up and I brought up, the drive-in there was actually decent, and I didn't go there enough. And unfortunately, it's a place, I don't know if they're even still open. I should probably look into that. But it was one of the last remaining operational drive-ins in California. And then COVID came, and I feel like they reopened a couple of them down in Southern California. So I'd have to look at that. But yeah, it was a decent place. 2 screens. Drive-ins don't always have 2 screens, so it was nice. The worst theater seats ever at the Paris Theater in New York City, the equivalent of grade school chairs. I mean, I love the New Bev, but I will also say the chairs at the New Bev kind of really suck. Obviously I'm a giant man, but they are not comfortable in the least bit. They are ones like if I needed to stand up, I would do better using like margarine to grease the grease the armrest. Let's see. I remember recommending Terminator 2 to some older people. They were not having it. I tried my best. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you.
Stan wants to know what comic book shop you worked at.
So it was in my small town of Palmyra, Pennsylvania, and it was called Comics and Paperbacks Plus. And I went there all throughout my childhood and then worked there in college. Because I was friends with the owner from just having gone there. I literally lived a block away from it, so I could just walk there. It was nice.
I saw Jaws at the drive-in in 77. That sounds awesome.
What other questions did I miss?
We were talking about my hometown theater and how much of a piece of shit it was.
Yeah.
D. Sivner says someone brought their 3-month-old to the opening night of I Am Legend. Jake,
terrible theater experiences for sure. I could over the years.
We were talking about the drive-in my hometown, which my hometown, by the way, is where they filmed the I don't remember it's the opening, but the segment from Kill Bill 2 in the mobile home or RV or whatever it is, where they let the snake loose in there. Yeah. They filmed that there, and Jake says I hated the bathrooms at the drive-in. They had one of those stupid piss troughs thing. Stand shoulder to shoulder and piss in a trough together.
I've seen those. I embarrassingly, as a hardcore movie fan, had not been to a drive-in prior to the pandemic when we were forced to.
Wow.
I don't think they really had that many anywhere near my hometown. Yeah. And, I could have gone to one much sooner than the pandemic when I moved out here to Los Angeles, but I just never did. But then I went a shit ton during the pandemic. Let me tell you, don't go see, what's that Dave Franco horror movie that he directed?
Oh, The Rental?
I really did not like, but
it is not good.
It's even worse at a drive-in because the whole movie is practically pitch black darkness, and you're trying to watch it from your car in the darkness. Yeah, I went with my buddy Zach, and we couldn't see shit.
Terry says was listening to talk about theater checks and thought to shudder at too many memories of doing them as an employee and manager.
Yeah, it was fun times though. I like kicking people out when they're being annoying because now I don't have the power to do that anymore. I just yell at them. But back then I could kick them out, and it was it felt good.
Brent says worked at a movie theater years back as a manager and projectionist. Loved it, but wasn't great pay. Unfortunately, that seems to be the case. This sounds pretty cool. Sarda says one of the drive-ins back home had seats outside the snack bar with speakers and then a playground below the screen to watch the kids while viewing the film.
Interesting.
And then, of course, John comes in and says, I kind of hate drive-ins, which I get. I completely understand that. I totally forgot about this. Paul Huggins flashbacks to Sam Kinnison's been about piss drops.
Not sure if I love Sam Kinison. I'm not sure if
I've heard that. I haven't heard that bit in years. I guess another core memory just got unlocked. That was wonderful. Let's see. Me and my cousin managed to pee on the ceiling when we were kids.
It was recently. It's not a piss trough, but it was recently, sadly, I guess only 1 year anniversary of Bob Saget's passing. Just earlier this month, and but I shared this on my Instagram when he did pass last year. But one of my very first experiences in Los Angeles, I doubt I was out here for more than 2 weeks. Couldn't have been more than 2 weeks tops. And I went to the Hollywood Improv for the very first time. That and the Comedy Store were two places I needed to go immediately as soon as I moved out here. Of course, start learning the ropes and the grounds and meeting the people and getting get my foot in the door there. And so this was my very first trip to the Hollywood Improv. Again, couldn't have been more than 2 weeks living in Los Angeles. The headliner that night was Tom Green, and I'm in the bathroom, and I'm peeing not in the trough, but at a urinal, and all of a sudden somebody comes in next to me, and I just feel a presence naturally. So I glance over kind of like this, and it's Bob Saget. And I don't even think I turned my head, but he somehow must have seen me or sensed me, and he's like, and he just says out loud, "Don't worry, I didn't look at your cock." And I was like, "Oh, this is where I belong." It was that moment sealed it.
Bob.
Good old Bob.
Love this. Lissa says, my mom and her friend went to the local drive-in to see Death Wish, and mom's babysitter canceled, so I had to lay down in the back seat and listen to Men Be Dispatched by Charles Bronson. Okay, so I've had 2 or 3 defend this. What is terrible about the rental?
Oof. In my opinion, besides not being able to see one frame of it from my car, although I did try and watch it again when it came out on Blu-ray, I just felt it was unbelievably cliche in every facet of its storytelling, and had a very anticlimactic ending. I just didn't like. I don't know. I wasn't. It seemed like nothing new to me, and didn't take me anywhere on its journey whatsoever. It seemed like, and I like Dave Franco, I think, as a person, and certainly as an actor,
Same
and
with Alison Brie.
and same with Alison Brie. I just felt like he took it's his first movie, and I felt like he just like really wanted to like make a movie, and he was just like, "Rah!" and like wrote down everything he'd seen in horror movies. It was like, "What?" And then like spit out the rental, and it was just like, not good in my opinion.
I felt like it could have been a really fun, like 12-minute short.
Yeah. I mean, it did go on too long because it was just like, it. Yeah, I mean, that was it, my whole issue with it was its plot and everything. Honestly, everything about the writing. The actors did a fine job, but it's just like between it being cliche and like just kind of being a regurgitation of a bunch of other stuff, and having obviously extreme pacing issues with a very anticlimactic ending. Yeah, it
The worst part,
they're short.
yeah, the worst part for me is the dialogue in that was awful. Everything about it, and that's what they were using to drive the entire story, and it's just so not believable. It's so contrived, and it's, I don't know, it when you have 4 people living in a Airbnb for a weekend or whatever, you're not just going to immediately assume that people are cheating on each other. It was just the worst.
It was very
Anyways,
contrived. Yeah, who said they liked it?
we had a few. Let's see. D. Sibner liked it. King Dingling liked it.
Teach their own.
And then we had a question on it. It was, if it had focused on the masked killer, would it have been better? I mean, not. I think it would have had more potential, but I think overall they just need to fix the dialogue.
Yeah, I think so too. I saw. Oh, Stan said drive-ins helped me survive the pandemic, and I would agree 100%.
That's awesome.
But no, there was another comment I saw. Oh, DC said, Tom Green, Daddy, would you like some? By the way, I ended up becoming. I mean, that was my very first encounter with Tom Green at that show because, again, I had just been in LA for like a week or two, but I ended up becoming friends with him because he's also friends with Andy. So somehow in the mix of that, maybe about a year after that show, I ended up knowing Tom Green, and right around that time where I haven't talked to him in who knows how long now, but right around that time where I was just kind of becoming friends with him, early in my friendship with Andy as well, is during the time frame that Periscope was really popular. Do you remember Periscope?
Oh yeah.
And so Tom Green was always on Periscope, like every day. And one time I was watching his Periscope, it was like a Tuesday night or something like that, and I was just like home with nothing to do, and he went live and I was watching it, and his car ran out of gas in the middle of a drive-through while he was on Periscope, and it was like right nearby here, like in Sherman Oaks or something like that. And he was like, if anybody can help, he's like on the Periscope asking for help, and I was like, I'm not doing anything. So I literally met him at this drive-through because I knew where he was. He said it on the Periscope, and then I helped him push his car in neutral to the nearest gas station.
Yeah, that's maybe in the next month or so you can get Tom Green on the channel.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him for the first time in like 4 years.
DM him on Periscope.
You can't even get on that app anymore.
Nope. All right. As funny as this is gonna sound, we don't have much else to talk about, and Jeremy's got to continue working. And yeah, this is where we're at. Jeremy just wanted to come in and rescue us to hang out for a little while with everybody.
Some time for my buddy Ryan because Flip had to go close up the pizzeria and didn't have time to do the show.
I'm not going to put any of the business out there, but the sad thing is, it's way sadder than that.
The reason he didn't come?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll find out later.
He has actual family issues at the moment. Yeah.
Oh, poor guy. Oh yeah, my friend Monique. What's this?
What eventually gets more posts on the Criterion subreddit? Requests for after hours or non-joking requests for Freddy Got Fingered?
If they released Freddy Got Fingered, I would be thrilled. I'm sure Criterion snobs would have a fit about it, but I'd be thrilled.
I would too.
I don't think it hasn't gotten a Blu-ray release at all, right?
Nope. Hall & Oates wants to see you at a Q&A. Tell Tom, hey, remember when I helped you push your car out of a drive-thru? And he goes, no, I don't remember you.
No, he would. Well, maybe he wouldn't remember. He remembered because again, I haven't talked to him in a while, and there was a period of time where I hadn't talked to him in like a year or a year and a half. But then I was like, hey, remember I helped you push your car? And that jogged his memory. Oh yeah. So I think that bonded us for life. I think it's better than that time we went to dinner 40 years ago.
After you skipped rocks at the lake. Yeah, that makes sense. So anyways, that is about all we got for Jeremy, because he's got to go and write like stupid TV shows or something.
Yes, the stupidest. And my friend Monique's coming over after that, and we're gonna do face masks apparently.
Nice.
And also drink wine. So girls' night.
Sounds like a wonderful night. Thanks everybody for hanging out, and we'll see you next time. See you Thursday. I just pressed the wrong button. Let me end the